Hey everyone, today I am going to be talking about something that is called a response post in the world of blogging, specifically software blogging, but don't tune out if you're not a software blogger because the response post is going to apply to any niche. So first of all, what is a response post? Let me start by offering maybe a contrast. So a typical blog post might be something like an opinion piece, why tabs are good and spaces are terrible, or why, COBOL is the worst programming language, things like that. So those are opinion posts. Usually they're targeted at getting shares and sparking discussions. There are other kinds of sort of classic blog posts, like a how-to blog post or a what is it blog post, where you describe how to do something and what something is, respectively. So those are some examples of types of blog posts. One thing that's a little less obvious is the response post. So by contrast, the response post, unlike any of those things, is a lot more specific. Often you will go into Google and you will type a question, like literally a question, and then hopefully you'll get a response. So a simple example is if you went and typed in, how old is Clint Eastwood? I'm not going to do that, and I should have prepared better because I don't actually know how old he is, but go type it into Google, and you will see something that pops up right away saying that he's 87 or whatever. That is a response. It's not a response post. It's Google helping you with a response to your question. Now, the response post is a blog post you write in response to a similar question. Now, please do not go out and write a blog post about Clint Eastwood's age. Nobody will ever click on it because they get their answer as soon as they type that search in. What you want to do when you're writing a response post is find something that people ask that's a question, but that takes a little bit more nuance, like what are the best programming tools available or something like that, or what is the nicest pair of shoes I can buy for $50. I don't. You would want to do some research, and there are ways of seeing, how many, if any, people are actually searching for these things. So you want to know that there are some people searching for them before you go and write a response post. But once you find a question that people ask, and you are confident that you're actually going to be serving somebody by writing this blog post, once you write that post in response to that specific question, you are writing what is known as a response post. So with that in mind, for the what is it, now comes the why. Why would you do this particular style of blog post when you could be, writing opinion pieces that cause people to fight with you on the internet, or, the tried and true how-to post? Why this? So the time that I would recommend writing response posts is when you have a new blog, and or a blog that doesn't have what's known as domain authority. And domain authority is basically, I believe it's like maybe a Moz trademark, but it is a way of describing how much Google trusts you. And what we're going for with a response post is a long play around what's known as organic search. You want to bring traffic through Google to your site passively. So if you have a high authority site, when you write blog posts, Google is going to go and recommend them to people searching for keywords and phrases and whatnot that are related to the thing that your post is about. So if you are doing blog posts about shoes and you have the domain authority of a retail or a massive operation like Amazon, your article about shoes or blue shoes might rank. So this is the general idea when it comes to traffic and to getting Google to trust you. You want to get established, you want to get Google to trust you, and I'll come back to how in a moment, and you want to do all that so that you can bring people in over the course of time. Now, the reason that you'd want to do a response post is because when you are a brand new site that Google is not familiar with, they're not going to trust you. So when you're doing an article about shoes or blue shoes, you're going to rank behind 800 billion other websites out there. So you don't have a chance initially at ranking for what are known as good keywords, like high volume keywords. So you kind of want to make the most out of going after really, really specific searches that maybe people aren't getting detailed exact answers to yet. So if you were to write something into Google like, what is the best pair of blue shoes I can get for less than $40? That is so specific that I would be willing to bet that nobody has written an article with that title, like the best pair of shoes for under $50 that are blue or whatever. Now, don't go and write that post because I have no idea whether anybody's actually searching for it or not. But if they were, then this is a post that you could write, even as a very low authority site, that Google would take a chance on. Because even if you got a handful of searchers in there, that's fine. Google would serve those handful of searchers by finally taking a flyer on your very unknown website. And so what you want to do with the response post is you want to go after really low-hanging fruit. And even though at first it's only going to be a little bit of traffic, you want to make those searchers really happy. Because then Google, with that response post, learned a lesson that, oh, hey, your site, people are pretty happy when we rank this for an article. So the next time you write an article, we might be more inclined to rank for that. So that's the why behind writing response posts. Think of it as paying your dues so that you can rank for other things later. And once you write enough response posts and you start building up a traffic profile and some authority, what you'll find that will start to happen is Google will take more and more chances, and you're not going to rank for shoes, but you might rank for the kind of terms that you would like to rank for. So for an example today of a response post, this is going to be in the niche, and it's going to be related to our site, Make Me a Programmer, which is Hit Subscribe's kind of playpen experimental site for organic search and proving that we can build up traffic for you. And so with Make Me a Programmer, we are in the stage of things where we're doing exclusively response posts to try to get Google to trust us. So with that in mind, let's go find one of these what are called long tail keywords to go do a response to, a question. So a couple of prerequisites for this. Number one, I'm going to be using Google, and I'm going to be using Chrome, and I'm going to be obviously using Google as the search engine, since that's what I've been talking about. But there's another prerequisite that will help, just kind of in general, and I've done a video about this before. It's a plugin that shows you search volume, and it's called Keywords Everywhere by, I think the outfit is called Keyword Keg. So check out the links I have below, or the link I have below for that particular video to see how to install that plugin. So with that, let's go into Google and let's type in the word or the keyword programmer skills. And now what you're going to see when you do that is you are going to, at least as of the time I'm recording this, you're going to have a keyword with a search volume of 2,900. And I'm going to go over here into the Keyword Keg tool, and we're going to see that it has a search difficulty of 52. Don't worry about that number. But the fact that it's kind of there in orange, this is not an easy search. So this is something that we would struggle to rank for even with a decently high domain authority, and Make Me a Programmer does not have a decently high domain authority. So that is basically unattainable for us at this point. So I'd like to write about programming skills, but I'm never going to rank for that. So let's take a look at what I could rank for. To dive in briefly a little bit more to what makes this hard to rank for, it's not just that Keyword Keg is telling us that this is kind of hard. You can see in here, flashing back to this search, that first of all, what's known as the fold. When you're looking at the programmer skills search, you've got this Tech Republic article, and then you've got a bunch of people also ask. And that dominates it. So I have to scroll down in the first place, even to get to the articles. And then once I do scroll down and I get to the articles, I'm seeing a .edu site. I am seeing Tech Republic, which was the featured snippet, which I know to be a high authority site. And, some other sites in here. There's another educational site, InfoWorld. These are, I believe, heavy hitting sites. So that's kind of what you want to look for to know that you need to do a long tail keyword. On the other hand, if we start to look within the people also ask here, that's where some of the magic happens. So there's a couple of features on the SERP here that are at our disposal. The first is people also ask. That I don't think always shows up in searches, but when it does, that's kind of your go-to way of figuring out how to do response posts. These are questions, respond to them. You can get some ideas down here at the bottom in searches related, but usually those are just going to be longer tail keywords as opposed to questions that people type in. Now, Keywords Everywhere is also giving you people also search for, but they're doing a much more detailed version of it. And then finally, you've got this idea of Google autocomplete. So that is an analog. It's another version, I guess, of what people also search for, but you can sort of play with what you're typing in to get real-time feedback on questions that people ask and longer tail keywords that people search for. So in this case, we're looking at what's a question that we could answer in order to do a response post? And, we've got a couple here about skills, which isn't surprising. Like, what skills do you need? What is meant by programming skills? Then you've got sort of an analog of this question, like, what are the qualities of a good computer programmer? What is a job description? How much do we make? What education is needed to become a programmer? Now, I'm going to pick that one for reasons I will get to in a future video, because I think some of these previous ones we could aggregate into a different kind of post that I'll cover later. But what education is needed to become a programmer? We could write a response post to this, because just off the top, there are a few different paths to becoming a computer programmer, which is you could go for it with no education and just teach yourself and kind of work your way in. You could get a degree in something that isn't computer science and kind of transition in. There are programming boot camps, and then, you can do what I did and get multiple computer science degrees. So this is a rich topic to cover, because there are a lot of different paths in, and you could go in and cover all of them and kind of also give a nice response in there, which would be to bold something in maybe the first or second paragraph, where you give an answer hoping to get featured in this feature snippet like Tech Republic. So if you type a really convincing bullet list or paragraph, Google might actually feature you in that snippet, which is awesome because it means they really trust you. It's also sort of, in the moment tactically, it's kind of a double-edged sword, because if they take a snippet from you and feature it, then maybe some of the people that would have clicked through to your site just figure they got their answer and they don't visit your site. But don't worry about that. It's a good problem to have, being in the featured snippet. So what we want to do is then write a blog post to see, or in response to this. But in order to do that, let's, check something first. So if we do a copy and paste of what education is needed to become a programmer, the last step before you start writing that post is to just kind of take a look at, what sort of volume are we talking about here? This is showing, and I will say as an aside, these aren't the final word on volume or difficulty, but right there in the search, keyword tag is saying that there's no volume here. And I will flash over here and show you what it has to say in a different screen about the difficulty of this keyword. That's something that you can see if you click the little icon there, and it'll take a moment to load, but that'll give you a difficulty score. And here, the one we've got at the time of recording this is 36. Don't worry about that score. The fact that it's green, that's what we like. So this indicates that this question is pretty easy to rank for, which is what we'd hope. And that it's kind of low volume, which isn't what we'd hope, but it's what we would accept. One final note, when it comes to looking at volume and difficulty, as I mentioned, these sites are not the ultimate arbiter. Google is, and only Google actually knows what volume and difficulty and all that, because they have a proprietary algorithm, which means everybody else is guessing, only they really know. What I will say is this: if KeywordKeg or Moz or Ahrefs, some of the other tools that I use, tell you 0 or they tell you no data, that is meaningful, but it doesn't mean nobody searches for this. And the reason I say that is because if Google is showing you that people also ask this question, that means they know something everybody else doesn't, which is that people search for that. How many? We don't know. It's a lot easier for these tools to forecast the large volume keywords for reasons that I'm not going to get into here, but suffice it to say, they have better data gathering metrics at sort of the fringes where there's not a lot of search. It's harder for them, and so they do more estimation. So what we want to do is we want to check kind of volume and difficulty to make sure we're on the right path, and then we're going to look here through the SERP. So there is another people also ask. There is actually a featured snippet answer to this question. There are videos. So those are things that maybe say this wouldn't be the best response post. But then if you look, none of these things in the search engine results page are really answering this question. So our question is, what education is needed to become a programmer? So study.com has computer programmer education requirements. And if you click on that featured snippet, it's, let's see, it's not, super detailed. Like I'm ballparking it maybe 500 words. And a lot of this isn't really, it's kind of talking about like beginning salary and some other stuff. So it's not a detailed answer to the education question. And some of the rest of the search engine results page stuff is computer programmer education requirements, how to be a coder, computer programming degrees. So none of these are really answering that question. The title doesn't ask the question and the blog post doesn't answer it. So that means that we might even be able to write a post, even without much authority, that rises all the way up to the top and displaces all of these for the featured snippet. It's at least worth a shot because we will almost certainly get onto the front page here since it's easy to rank, and Google will start to trust us. So what you do there is, with all of this in mind and with all the research done, that's when you kind of go into your blog post, you outline it, and you really try to do a good job of comprehensively answering that question. You want to, compared to all of the results on this page, you want to create the definitive canonical answer. You want to make it more detailed, more helpful, more approachable, more everything than all of these other guys. Now, things like content and how to title a post and how to write a meta description and all that, stay tuned for more videos on that subject because I will get into that later. But this has been sort of a primer about what the response post is, how to do it, and like how to even figure out a topic for it. So stay tuned for future videos on more of these subjects, and thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.